Are we rolling? Yes, we are. What's up, guys? It's McKinley Crain here, and today I'm going to be doing my spoiler-free movie review of the 1997 PG-13 rated action comedy film, which was not exactly a parody, but more of a spoof film on 60 spy movies, which was Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. So, this movie is like I said, a spoof on 60 spy movies, that stars Mike Myers as Austin Powers. Um, who was a spy in the 60s, who was he was a British spy in the 60s who was like a really a really goofy sleazy type character, and like is still is that way. Who is all hippie like, if you know what I mean. Who ends up having to freeze himself so he can wake up in the future. When Dr. Evil freezes himself too. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Evil was also played by Mike Myers, and is a hilarious villain who is totally kind of a just basically your classic 1960s James Bond villain, like James Bond movie villain. Although he's stupid. He's supposed to be an idiot. And yeah, so Dr. Evil froze himself so he could rule the world in the future. So basically, the government forced Austin Powers to freeze himself too, so he would be there to stop Dr. Evil when Dr. Evil basically unfroze. And when Dr. Evil does unfreeze, it's 30 years later in the 1990s. And so basically a lot of this movie is Austin Powers having to get used to the culture of the 90s, when he's basically unfamiliar with it, and he he still acts like he's he's living in the 1960s. And basically when he gets unfrozen, he gets assigned a partner slash kind of a guide to help him on his missions, and to help him figure out stuff about the 90s, and that his partner happens to be Vanessa Kingsington, who's played by Elizabeth Hurley. And Vanessa Kingsington is also Austin Powers' love interest in this movie, so, anyway, and this is a hilarious film. It's the humor in this film is it's very well written, and it's very clever, and the dialogue in this movie is also very clever, and just all the spoofs and references in this movie, like, on, like, spy movies and just movies in general, are hilarious and clever and very cleverly written, and, like, just very cleverly thought out, and just very smart. Mike Myers gives the best performance in this movie, in my opinion, as both Austin Powers and Dr. Evil. Those two performances were tied, in my opinion, for, like, the top spot. But the whole cast, this movie's whole cast is great. And I love the character chemistry too, especially between Austin Powers and Vanessa Kensington. This movie is hilarious. I know that a lot of people think that this movie is rated R. It's actually not. It's actually rated PG-13. Most people who have seen it know it's rated PG-13. A lot of people think it's rated R, but it's not rated R. I love this movie. I love, like, I love Mike Myers movies in general, and I love like, Mike Myers. I think he's hilarious. I love Wayne's World and Shrek, and, like, the Shrek movies. Well, most of them. Most of the Shrek movies. Anyway, I love most of the Shrek movies, Anyway, I haven't seen, like, the sequels to Austin Powers, like, the Austin Powers sequels, like Spy Who Shagged Me and Goldmember, but I'll probably watch those in the future, sometime in the future. Although, like, I have seen International Man of Mystery, and I think it's hilarious. The action that's in this movie works. It's because it's an action comedy. A lot of the action in this movie is very goofy, and it's purposely goofy. It's, like, supposed to be goofy. And I think that this movie is just a great movie, and it's a fun watch. It's not this movie, like, it's not for everyone, because a lot of people don't like this kind of movie. But I do. So anyway, I'm gonna give this movie an 86% out of 100%, which is the equivalent of an A-. Like, subscribe, join the notification squad. I will return.